just wanted to give you guys a little insight on the community analysis presentation. You're going to choose 3 communities near your residential area and examine factors that would be related to transition in each of those communities. You need an urban community, a suburban community, and a rural community. Ideally, these are going to be all in the same broad geographical area. You may live in a very rural community and have to really branch out to get an urban and a suburban, so that's okay. You're going to research the transition supports the local high school. If there's more than one local high school, you could focus in on one, but you want to look at what they offer students in terms of transition planning. Do they have vocational classes? Do they have a work instructor or a job coach that takes students out onto job sites to train them? Does the special ed teacher take the students out on community-based instruction? Transition supports could be employment related. It could be daily living skills related. Are they going and shopping? Are they going to restaurants and practicing ordering? Do they have a home ec class or a family consumer science class, I guess is what it's called now? Are the students able to take these classes to learn how to develop some independent living skills? Do they have a social skills program? Things like that. That's what you're going to look at for the schools. What do the schools offer students with special needs that will help them transition into adult life? You may even look at if some students are going to go to college or a vocational school. So look at what types of classes are offered to students that may be looking at furthering their education. Then you're going to look at employment trends and options for individuals with disabilities. Now at this point, you're moving away from students. You're not looking at the high school anymore. You're looking at the community. What trends and options are there for your students once they've graduated from high school? Once they're adults in the community, what employment trends and options are out there? You may look at, there may be local little mom and pop shops and restaurants that hire students with or adults with disabilities. There may be a Publix. Publix is really good at hiring adults with disabilities. If you live in a community where there's a Tzatziki's, they hire adults with disabilities. But look at those trends and options for those individuals with disabilities. Some places, make it a point to hire adults with disabilities. There are, most they can't. The places can't discriminate against individuals with disabilities. But look and see, where do they typically end up working? What types of jobs are they working at? What types of jobs are available for them? In the rural community, it may be very, very limited. And in an urban community, they may have many, many more options. So look at those options that are out there for individuals with disabilities. Then you're going to look at transportation options for individuals with disabilities. How are they going to get to work? How are they going to get to school if they're advancing their education? Is there public transportation? Are there programs like ClassTran where they pay a certain amount for a van to pick them up and take them to and from? Or are they going to have to be dependent on their parents or themselves if they're able to drive? What options are out there for individuals with disabilities to get to and from school, work, day programs, whatever? You're going to look at the post-secondary education and training options. What's available in terms of post-secondary education? Are there vocational programs available? Community college, vocational training centers, adult day programs for the individuals who may not be working and may just need to go to an adult program. I can think like looking at Birmingham, there's of course UAB if students are going to further their education. There's Jackson, Jefferson State Community College. There's Virginia College. There's several programs out there, 2-year programs and 4-year programs. But also there are things like the Exceptional Foundation, United Ability, Unless You. There's adult programs for individuals with disabilities, with some more severe disabilities, your lower incidence disabilities that may not be working, may not be going to school, but there are day programs available. So look at what is available. There's some sheltered workshops, possibly, which is really more of an employment, but those places aren't going to pay a lot, so you may just look at them as training options. Okay, then you're going to look at community agencies. What community agencies are available to help the individuals with disabilities in their adult life? Is there an ARC program that might provide some training? Is there something like the Horizons program, which is post-education and training, but they also do some community training where they go out and help students in their apartments, learning how to clean, how to pay their bills. Is there vocational rehab is a big community agency. ARC, once again, would be a community agency. So some of these things may overlap, but look at what agencies are available to help individuals with disabilities. There may be some private foundations that offer some programs to help individuals. So then you're going to look at, once you've looked at the school and what's available in the school, then separately the community. Once you start looking at employment, transportation, post-secondary, community agencies, you're no longer looking at the high school, you're looking at the community as a whole. That's one of the mistakes that I see very often on this project. People just continue to talk about high school students. The only time you're talking about the high school students is right here, when you're talking about the high school itself. Then you're moving out into the community, thinking about what's available once the students have graduated and they've moved into adult life. So the rest of these, you're looking at the community and what's available for adults with disabilities. Once you have looked at that, you want to summarize each of these communities and think about how what's available might impact the transition options and plannings for students with disabilities. So at this point, you're going back and you're thinking about, as the teacher who's writing transition plans for students with disabilities in each of those communities, excuse me, how would your transition planning differ within those communities? Sometimes we're limited by what's available for our students. So when we're planning for their adult life, we're looking at the community and we're going, okay, what's available for them? You're looking at their wants and their needs, but you also have to look at what's available in the community and how is that going to impact your transition planning. So analyze that, look at that for each of those communities, and kind of try to look at, when you're thinking about these different areas, are there more options for students with mild disabilities? Or is it pretty fairly, is there a pretty equal distribution of opportunities for students regardless of their level of disability? Are students with moderate and more severe needs, are their options more limited? So I gave you a planning guide, and this is just a planning template to help you kind of organize, and there's not enough room in here to really write, but write out everything you're going to put in your presentation, but this will help you kind of organize the information, and you can expand the charts, expand the spaces when you're trying to writing down some ideas of what you're looking at. So this here is just for planning purposes. This is not part of your presentation itself. It's just to help you organize those thoughts as you're looking at each of these areas for each of these communities. So you're going to take your rural community and say, look at what's available in the high school and what's available within the communities as far as employment, transportation, post-secondary, and community agencies. Then you're going to take your suburban community and look at transition supports at the high school, and then employment trends and options in the community for students for adults with disabilities. This says students, it should say adults once they've graduated. I'll fix that on the template. Transportation options, post-secondary education and training options, and community options. And then you're going to do the same thing for the urban community. Then you're going to put all this together in a presentation. You can use PowerPoint, you can use Prezi. If there's another presentation program you like that isn't specific to a certain operating system, you can use that. If it's a web-based like Prezi, that's fine. But you're going to put it in a presentation. You want it to be as professional as possible. Think about, create this as if you were going to go to a conference and present this presentation. You want it to look professional. You want it to be professional in appearance as far as your grammar, make sure you look for typos, and you can use a template or you can make it yourself. You want to use some images possibly. You might want to include some hyperlinks to some of maybe some of the adult programs or community agencies. You might want to insert a video if there's something that would apply. So just be as thorough and as professional as you can. I hope this has clarified this project a little bit. Like I said, I see one of the major mistakes I see is people talk about the schools all the way down. So they'll talk about school bus is the only option. No, we're no longer, school bus is not even considered here, because you're talking about what's available within the community for transportation options for adults with disabilities. So the only time you're talking about the high school is right here, when you're talking about what's available in the high school to help prepare students for adult life. And the rest of this, you're looking at what's available for adults with disabilities within these three communities.